Victor Schult served God for many years before he came to us at Hope. He had retired, and he and his wife Ruth were looking forward to retirement when they wandered into Hope Church. He soon became the minister of visitation, and he was often the first person that we met as we came to church. He was a wonderful man, full of life and love. There was a presence and confidence about him that one could not ignore. When I wandered into Hope Church in 1979, I was too embarrassed to put down my home address because I thought somebody would come visit me. I put down my business address thinking this would discourage visits. I didn't know Victor Schult very well. The next Tuesday afternoon, Victor showed up in my office, and he said, "Charlie, you look like a person who would like to be a part of something bigger than yourself, and Hope Church will give you that opportunity." Little did I know this truth he spoke that afternoon in my office. Does anybody remember Vic Schult's sermons on the Beatitudes according to Peanuts? This continuing series covered life's lessons learned according to Snoopy. What a treasure Vic Schult and his lovely wife Ruth were to our community. We thank God for Victor Schult and his service to Hope Church. By 1979, we had a new building. We were growing. There was an excitement in the air. Al Brown came to be our pastor. Al is now retired and lives in Oklahoma with Laura, his wife. Laura served as a time as our diaconal minister and put in countless hours trying to build the programs of Hope in those early days. Al and Laura wanted very much to be with us tonight, but his health prevented that journey. Al's a great storyteller and a joker. Do any of you remember him doing the rope trick at the talent show? I'm still not sure how he did that. He had a way of convincing people to volunteer for things they had no intention of ever doing. Many of you have heard me tell the story where he convinced me that I should be the senior high Sunday school teacher at Hope Church. I thought he was asking me for something. He wanted my time, he wanted my commitment, he wanted my talents. But what the past 17 years have taught me is that Al Brown was trying to give me a great gift. Our prayers should be with Al and Laura, and we miss them very much tonight. But we thank God for their service to Hope Church. John Laughlin served as an associate pastor from 1983 to 1986. John and his wife Judy and some of his family are here with us tonight. He is currently the pastor of the First United Methodist Church in Cheyenne, Wyoming. John came to the ministry with a background in law enforcement. He told many of us that he chose the ministry because he wanted to make a difference in people's lives. He looked at the various institutions in our culture, the education system, the law enforcement system, and the church, and he decided that he could make a difference by aligning his talents with the church. We're so glad that he did because he has touched many lives over the years. John wanted to teach his kids right from wrong, so he always got upset when his kids kind of fibbed a little bit. And his son Sean had a habit of just making things up. One day, Sean comes running in and says, "Dad, there's a bear in the yard. There's a bear in the yard." And John says, "Son, God doesn't like little boys that tell fibs. Go up to your room. I want you to talk to God about this." In a few minutes, Sean comes out of the room. John said, "Did you talk to God about this?" "Yes, I did." "Well, what did God say?" "God said the first time he saw that dog, he thought it was a bear too." Would you join me in welcoming John Laughlin to the podium?
A couple of really important corrections to make. I'm the pastor at Grace United Methodist because the pastor of First United is still there, which is Janet Forbes. So the district superintendent is here tonight. Don't want to spread that rumor. It's really a pleasure to be here. Charlie said we have 3 minutes to talk, and I told him that's virtually impossible for any preacher, especially this one, to share 25 years of your history and then my short 3 years with Grace United, or no, Hope United Methodist Church. Little history on ourselves. First, I really want to honor my life partner here who helped endure my 3 years with Hope Church, which is my wife Judy, who's here in the red. Stand up, Judy. For those of you who remember, she's wearing red tonight because of the memories we have of our red Fiat. You remember our little red Fiat? It was the one that we always parked there where the associate pastor's face was, and we were the most embarrassing vehicle in the parking lot of Hope United Methodist Church. Car doors wouldn't open. The kids would have to get out and open up all the cars doors so we could get out and enjoy church. And we have 4 kids. There were 6 of us in that little car coming to church on Sunday. So it was a memory full of lots of experiences. We are now in Cheyenne. We've been there going on our 9th year at Grace United Methodist, our 15th year in Wyoming. So obviously our gift from Hope was Wyoming. And we have thoroughly enjoyed our time in Wyoming. We've loved the people, but we've really enjoyed and loved the memories that we've had. And tonight is really very special because looking at so many of you, I came in the first 5 minutes, we made an agreement that none of us have changed at all in my last 15 years being gone from you, but some of you are from the old school. There's one person in particular who I had a lot of time I spent with, and that's Carolyn. Carolyn and I had made a commitment when I first got there that if we were going to do this job together, we were going to have a lot of fun. My very first office at Hope Church was a janitor's closet, if you remember, right off of the stairwell there. And that's where I was positioned for the first, maybe even the first year or 2 years that I was in Hope Church. I got there July of '83. And the assignment was, we need $1.3 million to build our building. You've got till November to find it. And if you remember, those of you here that were on that committee, we not only found it, we actually did it. We had a lot of fun in the meantime because we had banks who said to us, you can't do this. And I remember an appraiser coming to our church one day saying, what will we do with this property if we foreclose on it? And I said, it would make a great dinner club. And believe it or not, they took that idea seriously and promoted it to the bank because it was really the only logical use of that piece of property in the event it ever did foreclose, and obviously it didn't. During that 3-year period, we were at Triple Services when I walked in, and I always wanted to meet Bob Cole. I haven't met Bob yet, but I saw him up here earlier because Bob's name was taken in vain as much, if not more, than mine has been since I left. And, you know, to Bob, you can only thank for a number of things that went on at Hope Church before I arrived. My most distinct memory of, not really Bob's, this probably was not Bob's fault, but I remember being there first thing on Sunday morning, opening the door. My first assignment was just to take a whiff. If you could smell water, you just immediately went into the telephone, called the same guy, he would come out, and he continually pumped out the basement of the old education. And that was my primary job, was to get him out of bed and get him there quick enough before you all showed up for church. That's the joys of being an associate pastor. There's lots of different staff. Charlie did not recall a lady named Brunhilde. Some of you remember Brunhilde from our Oktoberfest, I think it was called. It was in our parking lot right there in the church. And for those of you who are sacred teetotalers, it's one of many controversies that I was involved with in this church because Brunhilde's group soaked those bratwursts in beer. And we had some people who were quite perturbed about that because the beer was on church property. And I remember saying to one of you, I hope you're not here tonight, but I remember saying to one of you, if that amount of beer gives you that little of a buzz, then that's perhaps what you need in life right now. If that person's still here, then I still mean it. I have very fond memories of Victor because Victor walked me out the door one day after I was there 4 or 5 months, and he said, young man, you need to remember something very important about life. He said, quarter horses can't run all day. And I thought about that, and I thought about that, and I said, I appreciate your advice, but I don't know how to slow down. 15 years later, I'm here to tell you I have not slowed down. Got older, but did not slow down, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. And being associated with you really sort of laid the groundwork for the kinds of ministry that I have today, including the experience with Brunhilde and Victor and a number of you sitting here right now. I recall going on youth trips, and one of the first mission projects we went was down to Four Corners. And Gretchen and Lloyd Trump joined us down at this site. And I know that none of these kids are present tonight, so I can safely say this. They were the whiniest, crabbiest group of kids I've ever been with. We weren't there 24 hours, and all of them wanted to call home. By the second day, they were crying because they hadn't been away from home, hadn't seen their mom, hadn't eaten this kind of food ever in their life. They weren't sure they were going to survive. They didn't understand why the bathrooms were someplace else than their bedroom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They were comparing what universities and colleges they were going to go to, and this story went on and on and on, and all your children were going to go to Yale and Harvard and Stanford. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but that's what they were saying at that time. And so we decided that they needed to lighten up a little bit and get a life. So what we decided to do was have a rebaptism. And what we did is we talked to the kids about the seriousness of baptism and really important phase in one's life to become a disciple of Jesus Christ. So we had them all geared up for this new baptism that we were going to participate in. Little did they know that Lloyd and I had arranged for Lloyd to fill up a 5-gallon bucket of water and get on the second floor with a window looking over a balcony. So we had the kids lined up on the stairs, and we were sitting there and preparing to do the ceremony for their new rebaptism, to get them prepared to be disciples of Jesus Christ on a mission project they were participating in. They were so excited. They were eager to go, and I said, you just got to step down one more step and you're almost there. And Lloyd gave it to them. It's a baptism none of those kids ever forgot. What I want to say to you in closing is something that maybe you've never heard before, but you need to be told this. There's a lot of things I like to say to you you've never been told before, but not tonight. What I really want to say to you is this. You helped shape my ministry. You helped shape who I am as an individual. I came in, you were the third church that I had in my career, and I just finished my 20th year as a United Methodist pastor. Even in my short 3 years, in building the new building and all of what that meant, and dealing with your kids and those kinds of things, shaped who I am today as a pastor of the United Methodist Church. And I can only tell you thank you for the diversity and the challenges that you presented to me in those 3 short years. It's the diversity and the variety that Methodists bring to their churches that creates not only a challenge, but an opportunity for us to be unique and very, very different people. And that's exactly what we are as United Methodists. I took all those memories of that short 3 years into Douglas, Wyoming. Stayed 6 years, which was the longest I'd ever stayed at any church. I usually get asked to leave after the 3rd year. And then went down to Cheyenne to be closer to Colorado, but I did not want to be in Colorado, with no offense to anyone here tonight. 9 years in Cheyenne at one of the greatest churches, if not the best church in the Rocky Mountain Conference, which is Grace United Methodist Church. I tell them often about all of you. And the fondness of the memories, the challenges that we had, people like Carolyn who held my hand and pushed me along, pulled me this way, poked me that way, and said, you better keep your mouth shut, you're getting yourself into deeper trouble here. The kinds of advice I got from Carolyn is one of those that a young pastor never forgets, but I got a lot of advice from a whole bunch of you, and it has all turned out to be great advice for my future in my career. And I've been able to share so much that I've learned at Hope Church with the people I have met in the last 15 years that we have been a part of. So many thanks to all of you, and to those few of you who especially had to tolerate my style and who I am and my personality and the fun that we had, the fun that we created at Hope Church, and then got it to where it is today. But it got there because you made it happen. Thank you.
The Reverend Dr. Richard Vickery served Hope during a time of transition and change, 1986-1990. Because of prior commitments, he could not be with us tonight, and we miss him. By 1986, the economic good times in Colorado had changed. We lost membership because people moved away and our budget was tight, and we'd made commitments. There were times that we waited for one of you to come in with your pledge so that we could pay certain bills. Many of us remember Dr. Vickery as a serious and an intellectual fellow. He worked tirelessly for Hope during a very difficult time. The beautiful Pentecost window in our sanctuary is dedicated in honor of his service. One of his memorable sermons was that we call ourselves Christians, but did anybody ever mistake you for Christ. He had a way of putting things in a great perspective. One of the personal moments for me with Dr. Vickery came after my father passed away. I had been out of town for about 3 weeks. Within minutes after I arrived at home, Dr. Vickery was at my doorstep. He prayed with me, and he told me that you, this community of hope, loved me and shared my sorrow. Was that happenstance? Was it serendipity? I like to think that it was the Holy Spirit working in Dr. Vickery's life and in my life. We thank God for Dr. Vickery's service at Hope Church. Marilyn Lesser served as the Minister of Education and Programs at Hope from 1987 until recently when she retired. Marilyn called this afternoon. She was not feeling well, and she sends her regrets. She is extremely well-read and well-traveled. In fact, she and Al just returned from, God help me if I can say this, over Ramagao. Thank you. And she was just tuckered out, I think, to be with us tonight. But during Marilyn's time building the programs at Hope Church, our adult participation more than tripled. She and Al have been familiar figures at our church, and we miss them tonight. But they built some of the success that we enjoy with our adult ministries today. We thank God for Marilyn's service at Hope. Sam Day and his lovely wife Barbara came into our lives in 1990. Sam was a senior pastor, shepherded us through some great times, growing membership and growing budgets and pledges. He always told us, I have some good news for you. He conducted the joyful ceremony when Sharon and I were married, and he'll always have a special part in my heart for that. We look forward to his sermon tomorrow. But Sam told me he was a little bit puzzled why we asked him to come and preach at our 25th celebration. And I was puzzled. I said, well, why? You're an effective and dynamic speaker. We all love to hear you preach. He said, well, one of the second or third Sundays that I was there, this 4 or 5-year-old boy shook my hand as he was going out of church, and he said, when I grow up, Reverend, I'm going to bring you a lot of money. And Sam said, well, why? I said, my daddy said you're the poorest preacher he's ever heard. Sam, you know we're kidding about that. Please join me in welcoming Sam Day.
Thanks, Charlie. It's really a joy for Barbara and me to be here. Barbara, why don't you stand up so everybody can see where you are. I was a little worried when I saw that song sheet. There's a hymn in our hymnal that I've fought against ever since I found it in there. It's called Day is Dying in the West. I'm sure glad that's not on that song sheet. Barbara and I retired 3 years ago, and we've had the most wonderful time since we retired. We spend the summers in Estes Park, Colorado, and we spend the winters in Green Valley, Arizona. It's wonderful not to have to live by a calendar. It's wonderful to be able to just go and do what we want to do. We've taken up square dancing, which is really exciting. We took lessons and then learned how, and we've been to several square dance festivals this summer and just had a great time. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we were in Broken Bow, Nebraska. I'd never even heard of Broken Bow. We have a little camper, and we were supposed to camp at the fairgrounds. And when I pulled into the fairgrounds, a train went roaring by, and the guy who took the money, I said, do those trains bother you? He said, well, not too much. I said, how many do you have? He said, well, we have 78 a day. That's day and night. That's one every 20 minutes. Well, that night, I tried to go to sleep. And they blow that whistle, and you think, I've got 20 minutes, I've got to get sleep. The second night, I finally got a little sleep. Anyway, we've had a lot of fun square dancing. I do a little preaching once in a while. I preach up at Estes Park when they need me, and we're glad to be a part of that church. I always wanted to have the privilege of helping to start a brand new church and never got that chance. But down in Green Valley, Arizona, where we spend the winter, we have a United Methodist Church, but the community's growing so much they wanted to start another one. So it's been my privilege to help get that one started. I preach some, I do communion for them, I've done calling for them. And as of July 1st, they appointed a full-time pastor there. So I'm really thrilled to have been a part of that. Barbara and I have a lot of wonderful memories of Hope Church. We had some wonderful times there. Shortly after we arrived, Jack Wilson, I think he was chair of trustees. Anyway, he was having a big work day out in the parking lot. We were working on some of the pavement that was falling apart. And at that time, you had an old sign out there right where you leave the parking lot and started to walk into the building. Now, I never did like that sign. Even when I was your district superintendent, I thought, why do they have that old-fashioned sign in front of that beautiful church? It was a sign where it listed the pastor's name, and you put the pastor's sermon up there, sermon title for the week. Well, we'd been there about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and we had that work day, and I think it was Dick Hansen who was out there, but he wiggled that sign a little bit, and he said, you know, this thing's about to fall down. I said, boy, I wish it would. He said, let's just cut it down. So we cut the sign down, took it over, and put it in the garbage pile. A couple of weeks later, Barbara was walking in the church. She was in front of 2 ladies that she didn't know, and they didn't know she was the pastor's wife. And one of the ladies said, what happened to that sign? And the other lady said, well, you know, they can't get the new pastor's sermon titles on it, so they just cut it down. For those of you who are new, you'll see my sermon title tomorrow and you'll understand what that means. One other funny story I shared with Ted tonight as we were sitting at the table. One day we were having a wedding, and somehow Ted and I got messed up on the time. The wedding was at 2 o'clock, and at 10 to 2, Ted had not showed up. Well, it was time to start the wedding. I called Shirley, and she said, well, Ted doesn't know he has a wedding. He's gone to the grocery store. Sally Robertson was to sing. I said, Sally, can you on the piano play the wedding march? She said, I sure can, if we can find the music. So we went up and got in Ted's bench, and we found the music. Came time for the wedding to start. Sally started playing the piano. But what she was playing was the recessional instead of the I got the giggles. I could hardly look at Sally all during that wedding. Near the end of the wedding, I saw Ted come sneaking in around, came up to the organ. Wedding was over. There came that recessional again.
Dressed in my jogging suit.
With a boot on his shirt.
One thing, that couple were so excited, they didn't know whether they'd heard the procession. It's a joy for us to be here tonight. It was fun to be a part of Hope United Methodist Church. I'm so glad to see that you're vital and alive and moving forward. God bless you all.
Sam Day put sermons together like a little boy in an ice cream cone, an old man mowing the lawn, and this lady at Walmart. And by the time he's through, you'll swear he's talking to you.